There are moments when the veil between heaven and earth becomes thin, so thin you can almost feel the brush of wings, the echo of a whisper, the radiance of a presence not of this world. The scriptures speak of messengers, malachim in Hebrew, angels who are sent not just to deliver words from the throne of the Almighty, but to walk among us, to minister to us, to fight for us, to surround us. And they're not just in the sky or on some distant mission. No, beloved, there are times they enter your home. Yes, your home. How do you know? How can you discern the presence of the holy messengers in your own dwelling? Let us open the ancient mysteries and uncover the 9 signs that angels are in your home. There are moments in life when peace descends so deeply upon a place that it defies all logic. It is not the kind of peace that comes from external calm or the absence of trouble. It is something different, something sacred. This peace is the kind that transcends human understanding. It arrives when the world outside is in chaos, when trials swirl like a storm, when everything in the natural says you should be anxious, but you are not. Instead, you are still. You are calm. You are quiet in your soul. That is not ordinary peace. That is heavenly peace. And often, that is one of the clearest signs that angels are near. The presence of angels does not always come with trumpets, flashes of light, or dramatic visions. Often, it comes in stillness. It comes when the noise inside the heart and mind suddenly goes silent. It comes when a room seems to breathe with serenity and you feel the weight of burdens lifted without explanation. This is not imagination. It is not just a change in mood. It is the effect of something spiritual taking place. Angels are ministering spirits, and one of the primary things they minister is peace. The kind of peace that cannot be manufactured by willpower or positive thinking. It is the peace that only heaven can give. This peace has been recorded through the ages. Stories passed down from believers across generations describe moments when a home suddenly felt different. They speak of times when, without warning, the atmosphere in the house shifted. There was no music playing, no candles burning, no spoken prayer at that moment. But the room became filled with stillness, warmth, a deep and unexplainable rest. That is not a mood. That is a presence. And when peace like that enters your home, it is often because angels are in that place. Throughout the scriptures, when angels appear, their first words are often, "Do not be afraid." Why? Because the human response to the supernatural is often fear. But the command to not be afraid is not just a directive, it is a release. Angels do not just tell us to be at peace. They carry the peace of God with them. They walk into the room with the authority of heaven. And when they enter, fear must leave. Anxiety must bow. Torment is silenced. It is not just what they say, it is who they are. They are carriers of the atmosphere of heaven, and heaven is not in chaos. Heaven is in perfect order, perfect calm, perfect peace. This is why some homes, without warning, begin to feel like sanctuaries, not because they are decorated with crosses or filled with spiritual music. It is because heaven has placed messengers within their walls. Perhaps there has been prayer in that house. Fervent, consistent prayer. Perhaps the family has honored God with faithfulness, kindness, and humility. Perhaps worship has risen from that house like incense. Angels are drawn to such places, and when they come, they do not only guard, they bless. They sanctify. They bring with them the residue of the throne room, and where they stand, peace reigns. People often dismiss this peace as coincidence. They assume their emotional state just improved, or they chalk it up to good circumstances. But those who walk in the Spirit can tell the difference. They know the peace that comes from a nap or a day off. And they know the peace that comes from another realm. One stills the mind. The other quiets the soul. One fades after a few minutes. The other lingers, settles in, and changes the very air of a room. That is heavenly peace. That is angelic presence. There are those who have felt it in the middle of the night, waking suddenly with a calm so deep it brought tears. There are those who have sensed it after intense prayer, when the burdens they laid at the feet of God were not just acknowledged but carried away. And sometimes there is no reason at all. The peace just comes. It enters the hallway, rests in the kitchen, wraps around a child's room. It is the mark of visitation. Angels do not come to bring confusion. They come to bring order. They do not come to stir fear. They come to silence it. They do not enter a home to observe. They enter to fulfill a mission, divine, specific, and filled with the fragrance of eternity. That mission often includes guarding the peace of those within, sheltering them not only from physical harm, but from the emotional and spiritual warfare that tries to rob their rest. And so, the atmosphere changes. The temperature of the soul adjusts. The heart exhales. The presence of angels is not always seen, but it is almost always felt by those who are willing to perceive it. There are moments when we narrowly avoid danger and cannot explain why. A near collision on the road, a delayed appointment that kept us from harm, a sickness that vanished without cause. These are not mere coincidences. There is a pattern to divine protection, and when we pay close attention, we begin to see the invisible hand of the supernatural at work. This kind of protection often signals that angels are in operation. They are not only messengers of God, they are guardians sent forth to shield, defend, and deliver. And when that protection surrounds your home, it may very well be because angelic beings have been stationed there. Angels are assigned to the people of God, not simply to bring a word, but to carry out acts of divine preservation. Scripture tells us that He gives His angels charge over us to keep us in all our ways. The Hebrew word for keep implies a form of guarding that goes beyond physical defense. It includes emotional, spiritual, and situational protection. When you walk through something that should have harmed you, but didn't, it may be because an angel stood between you and destruction. The car that swerved just in time, the illness that left as quickly as it came, the financial trap you avoided without even realizing it was a trap. These are signs. They are markers that heaven has intervened in the affairs of your life. There is something deeply powerful about recognizing divine patterns in your past. Look back over your life. How many times did things work out in ways that logic could not explain? How many moments occurred where danger was near, but it did not touch you? Perhaps you gave credit to luck, good timing, or your own decisions. But when you belong to God, and when your home is consecrated to His purposes, nothing is random. The protection you have experienced may very well be the result of angels assigned to your life and to your household. Homes that welcome the presence of God often become dwellings for His servants. Angels are drawn to the light, to worship, to purity, and to prayer. When a home is filled with these things, it becomes a beacon for the angelic. And when they come, they do not come passively. They come to surround. They come to defend. They come with swords drawn and eyes like fire. They stand guard over doorways. They linger in hallways. They keep watch as children sleep and prayers are whispered. The enemy sees the walls of such homes and cannot easily penetrate them. There is a spiritual perimeter, marked, sealed, and defended by those who move in the authority of heaven. This protection is not always visible. It does not always manifest in dramatic encounters. Sometimes it is quiet, subtle, and unnoticed, but it is no less real. A sense of peace when fear should have dominated. A delay that frustrates you at first, but saves you from something worse. A canceled plan that protects you from an unseen threat. All of these are often orchestrated by angels. They move within time, but are not bound by it. They see what we cannot see. They know what is coming before it arrives. And they intervene. There are countless testimonies of those who should have perished, but survived. Families who were spared in accidents. Houses that stood while others around them were destroyed. Children who walked away unharmed from events that should have left them injured. These moments leave people wondering why. The why is not always answered in the natural. It is spiritual. Angels carrying out divine protection stepped in, and often they step in without announcing themselves. There is also emotional and spiritual protection that occurs within homes where angels dwell. Marriages that were on the verge of collapse but were restored. Children who were tempted to stray but were kept on the path. Moments of despair that turned into moments of hope without explanation. When angels are present, they do more than guard the physical. They influence the unseen battles, the struggles that take place in the heart and the mind. Depression lifts, anxiety loosens, temptation fades. Their presence brings a kind of safety that goes far deeper than locked doors or alarm systems. It is a safety that secures the soul. The enemy plots destruction, but he is not omniscient. He operates by strategy, but angels operate by divine command. And that command is often one of intervention. To block, to delay, to reroute, to shield. When your home becomes a place where you continually experience deliverance from things that could have harmed you, it may be a sign that angelic forces are surrounding you. They are not passive observers. They are active participants in your life's journey. And when you begin to see the patterns, how close danger came but did not touch you, you begin to discern that something holy is watching over you. Children have a sensitivity that adults often lose as they grow older. Their hearts are unguarded, their minds unburdened by cynicism, and their spirits open to realms unseen. It is not uncommon for children to speak of things that seem strange or impossible to adults. Imaginary friends, glowing lights, voices in the night. But not all of these experiences are fantasy. In fact, some of them are spiritual in nature. There is a long-standing pattern throughout history and scripture of the young perceiving what the mature cannot. When a child sees something, feels something, or describes something that sounds like it belongs in heaven, it may very well be because angels are present. The spiritual world is not limited to the wise or the learned. Often, the most profound revelations come to those who are simple in heart. Children do not question in the same way adults do. They do not dismiss what they feel. When they say they saw someone glowing or describe a man in white who stood at their bed, they are often telling the truth as they perceive it. While adults may search for explanations, children simply accept what they see. This innocence allows them to sense the angelic more freely. There are many testimonies from parents whose children, without prompting, spoke of seeing angels in the home. Some described them standing near windows, others said they saw them by their beds. Some children have recounted conversations or moments where a presence brought them peace during a time of fear or illness. These moments may seem like dreams or imagination to the skeptical mind, but they often align with spiritual realities. When a child speaks of light or describes a figure of peace and calm during the night, it should not be dismissed casually. The child may have experienced a visitation. In the scriptures, children have had divine encounters that changed history. Samuel heard the voice of God as a boy. Jeremiah was called from the womb. Jesus welcomed children and said that unless one becomes like a child, they cannot enter the kingdom of heaven. Why? Because children carry a trust and openness that heaven values. Their vision is often clearer, not clouded by fear, doubt, or logic. In a home where angels dwell, it is not unusual for the youngest members to be the first to recognize their presence. A child's room can become a place of angelic activity. Prayer over that room, worship music, and a home filled with the Spirit can create an environment that draws heaven close. When angels are present, they are drawn to those whose hearts are pure. And who among us is purer than a child who believes easily, trusts deeply, and speaks what they see without guile? It is no wonder that in such homes, children become aware of things that others miss. They may tell you they saw a man dressed in white or a light that danced in the corner of the ceiling. They might describe dreams filled with radiant beings or conversations they cannot quite explain. These are not always random thoughts. They can be signs. Adults often lose this sensitivity because of life's burdens. Fear, disappointment, and doubt harden the spiritual senses. But children, untouched by much of this, remain open. Their minds are uncluttered. Their spirits remain closer to the realm they came from not long ago. And so when the angelic passes through the home, it is the child who may first see them. It is the child who might wave at an empty corner or speak to someone invisible. And it is the discerning adult who will pause, not to correct or criticize, but to listen. Children also carry a sense of peace when angels are near. Parents may notice that a child who was restless becomes calm. A baby who was crying suddenly sleeps deeply. A child who had been troubled now sings or hums a melody with no source. These shifts in behavior can correspond to moments of spiritual visitation. The presence of angels brings peace, and children absorb that peace quickly. It manifests in their demeanor, their expressions, their laughter, and their quiet stillness. Parents who cultivate an atmosphere of faith and prayer often witness these moments more frequently. When the home is filled with the presence of God, His servants move freely. And as they move, the eyes of a child may watch. The spiritual world is not distant. It is near, and the youngest hearts often perceive its nearness before anyone else. Their words, their reactions, and even their drawings or dreams can reflect the invisible presence of the angelic in the home. Worship is more than music. It is not just the sound of instruments or the lifting of hands. Worship is a posture of the heart, an atmosphere of reverence, a declaration that God is worthy above all things. When true worship rises from a home, it does something powerful in the spiritual realm. It shifts the atmosphere, not only attracting the presence of God, but also drawing His messengers, angels. The scriptures are filled with the connection between worship and angelic activity. When worship ascends, heaven responds. And often, that response includes angelic visitation. In the book of Revelation, John describes scenes where angels are present as worship surrounds the throne of God. The seraphim cry, "Holy, holy, holy," and the elders cast their crowns down before Him. This heavenly worship is continuous, and in it, angels move. They are drawn to the sound of worship because it mirrors the sound of their home. When that same sound begins to rise from an earthly home, it draws the attention of heaven. Angels are drawn to places where God is being glorified. There are homes where worship is not just a Sunday activity, it is a lifestyle. These are places where praise is sung in the kitchen, where gratitude fills the air even in difficulty, where the name of God is honored daily. Such homes become like altars, and heaven takes notice. Angels are not attracted to noise, but to purity. They are not moved by talent, but by truth. When worship rises in truth and in spirit, something sacred takes place. The walls of that home echo with more than human voices. The presence of the divine begins to fill the space, and angels come. Worship purifies the atmosphere. It breaks darkness. It silences the voices of fear, doubt, and confusion. In that purified space, angels are free to minister. They do not compete with chaos. They are not drawn to pride or division. They are messengers of light, and they respond to the light. When a home is filled with worship, that light shines brightly. It repels the enemy and invites the servants of God. Angels walk into rooms where worship has been lifted because worship brings the fragrance of heaven to earth. And they know that fragrance. There are families who have experienced breakthroughs during moments of worship in their home. Miraculous healings, sudden peace, prophetic dreams, these are not isolated events. They often coincide with angelic activity. And angels are frequently drawn by worship, not because they require it, but because it prepares the atmosphere for divine assignment. Worship opens a door. It is an invitation for God to move. And when God moves, He sends His angels ahead of Him, with Him, and behind Him. Children begin to sing spontaneously. Peace enters the room like a wind. Tears fall not from sorrow, but from the weight of his presence. These are moments when the veil is thin, when heaven kisses earth, and when angels draw near. Worship is the language of heaven, and when it fills a home, it speaks to those who come from heaven. Angels do not ignore true worship. They join it. They surround it. They amplify its effects. There is also a defensive power in worship. It is a weapon. When the enemy seeks to sow fear or division in a home, worship drives him out. In those moments when a family chooses to sing instead of argue, to bless instead of curse, to kneel instead of retreat, something shifts. The home becomes a battleground, and angels fight for those who choose to worship. They defend the territory where God is honored. They stand at the gates of homes that choose praise over panic, faith over fear. Even the quietest acts of worship, whispers of gratitude, soft prayers of adoration, gentle songs in the night, are heard in the heavenly realm. They do not need volume. They need sincerity. When those acts rise from a home, they become like incense before the throne of God. And just as in the temple of old, where incense was a signal of intercession and worship, the modern home that worships becomes a sanctuary. And the sanctuary attracts the heavenly host. In worship, there is alignment. The heart aligns with heaven, the home aligns with purpose, and the atmosphere aligns with the will of God. That alignment creates a path for angels. It marks the house with a spiritual signal. It says, here is a place where God is honored, and heaven responds. The room may feel different. The air may feel weightier. A warmth may settle over the place. These are not mere emotions. They are signs. Worship has opened the door, and angels have come through it. So if your heart has ever stirred without reason, if your child ever whispered of light while the night was still, if peace came like a river when the world around you raged, if a warmth covered your home, though no sun touched the windows, if protection surrounded you, danger loomed, then perhaps, just perhaps, you were not alone. Perhaps the host of heaven passed through your doorway. Perhaps wings brushed your walls. Perhaps the silence you felt was not empty, but holy, for the God who sends angels still watches over his own. Let your home be a sanctuary. Let your praises rise like incense. Let your children dream dreams. Let your doorposts be marked by faith. And when the light shifts, when the stillness comes, when the peace settles deeper than reason, know this, you are not forgotten. You are not unguarded. You are not unseen. You are loved by the one who commands the angel armies. And when angels are near, heaven is near. So open the door, lift up your voice, consecrate your home. For you never know when angels might be walking your halls. And if they are, it is because the King himself has walked in first.